of it, but Mark Pesce has this show called Cryptonomics.
Welcome back to episode 1 of Cryptonomics. Over the first 5 episodes of Cryptonomics, we'll explore and understand how the new world of cryptocurrencies works, beginning with the basic technology that underpins all of cryptonomics, the blockchain. The blockchain is the engine block of the crypto economy, the foundation upon which all of it rests. In this episode, we'll learn what a blockchain is and why it's such an improvement over the tools we've used before.
Yeah, it's it. What was the name? I've got Cryptonomics pulled up, but what was it pulled up some weird stuff.
Blockchain beginnings.
But before we can take a look at where money is headed, we need to turn back, all the way back to the origins of civilization, writing, and bookkeeping. For in our origins, we see the signs of our destiny. The earliest fragments of writing go back nearly 6,000 years to the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, that's modern-day Iraq. Those first bits of writing we found, you know what they are? They're ledgers. They're lists of things that someone owns, cattle and grain and hay and oil. Those are the sorts of things that would define you as wealthy 6,000 years ago. We started to write things down, at least this is what's supposed. We started to write them down because we simply had too much to remember. How many head of cattle? How many bottles of oil? How many bushels of grain? And if you sell some of that to someone, how many to them? Human memory is great, but it's all too fallible. By 6,000 years ago, things had gotten complicated enough that we needed some system to keep track of things. So we made marks, just as we do today when we make a tally. 1, 2, 3, 4, scratch. 6, 7, 8, 9, scratch. And these tallies, they evolved into cuneiform, the earliest form of writing. And the first example of that writing, it's a ledger. So not only does accounting go all the way back to the beginnings of civilization, it might be the original reason for writing.
This is the thing. Oh my God. Well, I think I had a dream about this actually 2 nights ago. But it's what you're saying, like being able to communicate it to your like grandma or to anybody in reasonable pockets for them to understand. You know, like that's where we got to get at.
Banking and finance tottered at the edge of an abyss. But in the middle of this financial hurricane, something truly novel came to light. Something no one had seen before. Something that could, perhaps, set all of this to rights. It was an academic paper, although these days we'd call it a white paper because it wasn't published in a prestigious academic journal. It was simply posted to the internet by its author, Satoshi Nakamoto. The paper describes something called a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that it named Bitcoin. But before we get into Bitcoin, and we'll get there soon enough, we need to have a good look at the reason this is so important in the story of banking. Electronic cash, that's no big deal. We've had that in different forms. Even in 2008, we'd had it in different forms for 15 years. The paper described a new way of keeping the books, a new mechanism for accounting, something even better than double entry bookkeeping. Better because it's both harder to falsify and cheaper to maintain. Let's take a look at how it works.
Yeah, so you just have to like deconstruct the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, as you're speaking to people, or else I can watch people's eyes glaze over when they get hit with those words where they're like, I'm not going to stop him to ask.
So now you can see that all 3 are linked together in a chain, almost like a photo within a photo within a photo. I've chained them together with these seals. That's the origin of the term blockchain. We're chaining these seals together in a way that makes it nearly impossible to change anything, because if you do, the seals won't look the same, and it's easy to check for that. So now, instead of having a list of assets perfectly balanced against a list of liabilities, that's how accounting has always worked. Instead, you can have this chain of linked blocks, this blockchain guaranteeing that every entry is accurate and none of them have been tampered with. Everyone gets to check to see if it all balances. It's cheap to do that. A computer program can handle it. An app for your smartphone can handle it. The proof is solid. You can bank on it. You can even build a bank on it. And suddenly, a lot of the need for all of the careful checks and balances that banks and auditors provide, that need vaporizes. That's the theory anyway. And so far, the theory seems solid. But changing the way banking and accounting work, that is not an overnight affair. Even 10 years isn't long enough to see much change, although change is bubbling away underneath and out of sight.
It's kind of funny. Okay, so recently, it's been a while. My uncle had dementia, so we knew that, it was progressive. So like that, all of a sudden, like it's just gonna go downhill real quick. And so that happened around my birthday, and so like we go up there and we do a road trip and we visit him. And my aunt, my uncle's wife, she's like a conservative Christian, and our whole life, like not that like there's any like bad blood between us, but like we're never really necessarily close. Conservative Christian, and then how I am, and just broadly brushing, and so spending there, and I was there working on the computer, and she one time sits down at the kitchen table, and she's like, "Okay, so what are you doing?" And but in this open way, I have some time, like I want to try to understand what's all this stuff, and then I go, okay, and then I started off with the whole like blockchain beginnings. I was like, I guess before I start, I think I want to start here, and then I start with that, and then I go into the kind of example of mines where I said I've been doing this stuff for like a long time, like doing podcasts, and I even hate using the word podcast, but it's the only thing I do without trying to really explain what I do. But I just use it, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing a podcast, and then blah blah blah, and it's like, and we always talked on the podcast like, first it was a point system, and we needed to have it a token, and then it became a token, and we're like, hey, we wish that this was worth something, and then overnight it was like 25 cents, and then everybody's like, oh, this is kind of cool, and then it was like 50 cents, and then we're like, oh, this is even cool, and then it went up to $1, and I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool, and then it went up to $2, and said, hey, this is, why is it going this high? It went up to $3, and then it went back down, and then I said, well, the reason why, and then I said, liquidity pools, okay, there's this thing called Uniswap, and then I kind of like explained liquidity pools, and then I go, okay, so I said, even on the show, I knew that you need to put stuff in the liquidity pool, but also too, I knew overnight there was millions of dollars in this liquidity pool, and I said, I know everybody on Mines, I know most of the players like culturally, and I know some of the devs, and I said, no one has that much money to put overnight that much in there, so I'm a little suspicious of what is these people's intention, and that overnight they could just take it out as easily, and warned everybody that this will happen, and a couple months later it exactly happened, and then our token went down below $1, and everybody was complaining, the blood on the streets, blah blah blah, everybody's upset. And then now, people put money back in and it goes up, but there's no one around anymore. And I said, and so like I tell them not only like the thing, then I go into like the example in detail, and then later she was like, and then I talk about like, using this, and then it's not only what I have earned, but it's the exponential growth that's there. And I said, when I first got the Ethereum coin, I think at that time it was $500 for one ETH, and then now you can see where it's at, and I think it could even go higher. And there's other things that I'm playing with and other things I want to do, but that's just the small example within 6 months.
Yeah, no, I think that $500 period was probably back like that last cycle when you were talking about it, and it was starting to hype up. And I didn't know all of what it was then. I didn't even ever look into what it was, because there was Bitcoin, and then there was Ethereum, their digital currencies. Nobody told me about Solidity and the EVM and it being a general purpose smart contract, not just for, currency transactions. And as soon as I realized that, it all clicked.
Okay,
all
so
of it just clicked.
And then later on to in the Cryptonomics podcast, he has one about smart contracts, and that's another good little segment. And then
smart contracts. I got in on Chainlink really early. I actually go to some local meetups. I got in under $3.
Hell yeah!
Those were some of the moves that got me fully, because I know
that's the next phase of the story. It's like, okay, UBI or being this securing your bag in a sense now frees you up. Okay, now I could do what I want, but what do I really want to do? What would be something that I do already? If you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life. Like, that type of question needs to be answered once you get there,
And I think for me, I've always chased, these inherent privacies that I think we believe, like these sovereignties. So financial sovereignty is important. I've always looked for decentralized social media. I don't even know why. All of these concepts have always been really, really important to me.
Yeah, and now we're seeing why those are the real real freedom and real powerful ideas. Those are like the light in this darkness.
Yeah, I always talk about, I was very interested in learning about Bitcoin when it was $7.
Oh shit, yeah.
But I was like 14, 15. And I didn't care about money.
Yeah.
I didn't have a debit card, but I thought it was really cool.
My story is that I earned my Ethereum coin. I didn't buy it. I played on Hive so I could earn their little stupid coin, and then I flip it to Ethereum every good time that it was favorable to exchange those rates. So I never bought any of my crypto.
That's actually really cool.
It's a point of pride for me.
I started getting in, basically I just busted my ass and got a job, and then started getting into investing, and then started buying.
Oh, but there was the especially when I went to Florida, there was times where I did try to sell it, and then it was just too cumbersome, and I was just like, fuck it, I'll just keep it. Oh, there was times where it was real bad, and I was like, "Oh God, I'm glad it didn't work out. Like the fates of gods put obstacles in my way, and I just said, well, fuck it, I'll do something else."
Made it too hard to jump your bags.
Yeah. Oh man, so you look back at that too, and because I mean, as much as I'm like, oh yeah, this and that, and I have this whole energy of conviction and whatever. I don't know. There's dark nights of the soul where I'm like, what the fuck? I wasted my whole life. For sure.
Well, until it gets to that point where the culmination of all your and I was gonna say that when you were talking about I think you said your aunt came to the table to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's probably the same aunt that was this bum, what is he doing?
Yeah,
Sitting around all day smoking weed, doing blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden it's a culmination of all the things you were actually doing, right? My parents used to be like, what are you doing on the computer all the time? Why are you playing games? Why are you're not making money on an MMO? I used to play these games and get this gear and sell these things and do these things in a virtual economy, but no one could ever see the fruits of that labor. They would never call it labor.
Yeah.
And now it all culminates and is becoming something where they're like, oh, maybe he's not just the basement dweller rat on his damn computer all the time. He actually knows some shit.
And with that being said, we, and especially you digging so far into the development, we are far ahead of that curve. And I think to a certain extent, I remember a long time ago I talked to Are You Serious? And this is why I talked to Douglas Rushcliffe and Are You Serious? Because Siberia is exactly like that. Doug wrote that book because exactly that. Everybody thought, what are you doing on the computer? This is for kids. You're an adult. Get a job. And they're like, no, this is where it's at. Dude, even to that extent, you know who Jared Lanier is, right?
Nope.
Okay, Jared Lanier is considered the godfather of VR. Anyways, I just found out recently, because I go to New Mexico almost every year. But anyways, the aunt that I stay with, or my cousin that I stay with, Jared Lanier used to go to their house and play Risk with my other cousin, Billy.
Oh, wow.
I was like, because I forgot, I was talking about like Douglas Rushkoff and like, you know, like she's a book editor. So we, like, every time I go, we have pretty good conversations about like what I'm actually doing, you know, over years, right? And so like this time, I was like, oh, you remember that guy I'm always talking about? Like, I finally got to like sit down and talk to one of my intellectual heroes, Douglas Rushkoff, and then I got so excited that I made another interview with Mark Pesce, who wrote a VR language when he was 20 on acid. So, you know, to say that he's a genius is an understatement. And, you know, I'm just like really proud of those two achievements. And then later after, she's like, you know what, do you know who Jared Lanier is? And I start laughing. I was like, yeah, I know who Jared Lanier is. And he's like, Billy and him were in the same grade, and Jared Lanier used to come to our house and play Risk. You know, I remember when they were, she's older than Billy. But they're like within two years. And she's like, I remember just them, Billy and his group of friends with Jared Lanier, were just like nerds, and they would play Risk and like games like that, and we always thought, you know, they were like really weird or like, you know, oddballs. And then like we always, because she said she always later when they're adults now, they always look back, like people in their circle, Jared Lanier was like the most successful because they seen him, you know, later do this VR kind of stuff. And then so they always go back to like, oh, remember when Jared Lanier used to play Risk? And this is the first time I heard that story. I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking crazy. Like, the world's weird like that sometimes. That's like a cosmic giggle for sure.
Yeah, it's there's lots of weird connections, you know, and they're sometimes too hard to discount.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, this is why I like Robert Anton Wilson, because that's why you kind of like cosmic giggles more than like synchronicity, because like synchronicity has this more like new age heavy like pull to it, and cosmic giggles like, yeah, that could be like destiny, but yeah, it could just be random.
Yeah, no, I like that phrase. I've never heard that before, because that's exactly how I feel. You know, like the girl I've been with for, you know, the last several years is very like esoteric. And is very you know, into that stuff, and very like believes in, you know, and I like the cosmic giggle, because that's kind of how I address things. You know, it does tarot readings and everything, and it's like, yeah, you know, maybe.
Yeah. But I also took LSD and talked to Keck once, so, you know, it's all relative. Shit. Yeah, for sure. And dude, you should listen to. Actually, you should watch the YouTube. I don't know if you ever saw it, that when I talked to Douglas Rushkoff, like I mean, some parts or whatever, but like some parts, dude, I felt like I think you've seen the one where I do the Minds Underground, where I felt like I had to defend Minds, because like I reference it, and then he kind of like said something about it being alt-right or something like that, and then I kind of like, oh shit, like I have to like defend Minds with Douglas Rushkoff.
Because it was that time period.
Yeah, because
it was that very specific time period.
Bill goes to fucking to that free speech of Trump bullshit, and like I get it, but then also too, like, narrative wise it's bad, and like, I mean, come on, I don't know, it's. And then even to that, I talked to Bill later, and I tell that to Bill, and then Bill says, Doug being a militant theorist should be, like, you know, kind of better than that. And he didn't say it directly like that, but in the sense too, I was like, oh, Doug too, you're getting a little old. But I think in my edit version, I represent the idea, and you know me, like, I'm not all like drinking the Kool-Aid on Minds either, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I've never been. I've always kind of maybe ticked Bill off here and there sometimes, because I've always brought up the uncomfortable shit.
Yeah.
always brought up a lot more problems than like being super grateful or anything, you know. And that's what I was saying with everything about the crypto part of the platform is like, I'm not just gonna hop into a chat with Bill and be like, so I'm back. This is what's wrong. Dude, I think that the more I think about it, I think that you were talking about how you were trying to keep up on doing talks, but you kind of lost the motivation because they become repetitive. I think in the beginning there was a ton of structure. I obviously haven't been around for like, this is one of those things where I'm just poking holes, but like I think going back to creating structure and like coming up with really, really specific topics.
That's why
we could rake some people in.
What I want to do with the cosmic trigger is exactly that. That now it doesn't matter. It's not about doing. I want to do it a monthly show, so it's not like you're doing a weekly show. But also too with that, I already have 2 episodes, which is the Douglas Rushkoff one, Bill, and I have one unedited version that I want to do with Mark Pesce that I already did a talk with. But so the further extent of this is it's decentralized, and I've always said that, but we never done it. So I'm setting the example. So like you could go and get somebody. So this is the intersection of culture and infrastructure of the Web3 world, and we need both culture and infrastructure. So I started culture with Douglas Rushkoff, even Mark Pesce, even though Mark Pesce kind of is not totally in the infrastructure, but knowledgeable enough to talk about certain aspects of that. Because I talked to him a little bit about Augmented Reality, a book that he wrote recently or last year or whatever. But anyways, more stuff like that, and now I think more on the infrastructure side, since Bill, Rushkoff, and Pesce I would consider culture. Now we need 3 of infrastructure, and I think this is where you could help. And basically, it's interview, but from that interview, when we edit, we do develop segments of fleshing out the ideas and things that pop out. So there is a podcast, which is the talk, but then there's the show where it's the more developed. It's a web series. And that's what I'm working on. That's like the specific idea that I'm working on. And even to the extent when Minds is ready to do the token grant system, which Bill says by the end of the year they should do, and they want to develop a DAO themselves, is that I pitched that idea as for a token grant to do the web series, and that we pay people for their time and blah, blah, blah. And then also too, it's more than just the web series, that we actually start doing that infrastructure stuff. So then we form our own DAO, and simultaneously we keep pitching that to Bill. So we build Imaginarium DAO as we're building and suggesting Minds DAO. And we basically are the model, and we write the token grant system for Minds. And we use that as our test. And then after we work out the kinks that way, then we do a fully formed Imaginarium, and it's independent and interoperable, and we take it to whatever. We take it as a boat to sail the Web3 world.
I think that's really interesting. I think I do want to be involved with that, because I'm turning a corner where I want to create again. Because I've just had so much shit going on, and I'm finally freed from, whatever situation I've been in for a bunch of years now. And
see, there, Gov, interview, and also to music, artwork, poetry.
I think it would be a cool thing. The Imaginarium DAO. We can come up with different monetization models.
Yeah, we'll experiment with NFTs, with the token, and if Imaginarium is going to have a token, it has to be meaningful. It's not going to be on MitMe. That's why Imaginarium's not on MitMe.
Yes, that's very important. Because I wouldn't even deploy any big mainnet contracts for that right now, like myself. I'm still polishing before I deploy anything big.
Oh yeah,
Because that's how messes happen.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get there. Because that's what I'm focusing most of my time on right now is developing my skill set, because I this is what I do want to do as a career.
Yeah.
And I think doing the talks and putting them on like Theta, doing podcasts, doing structured things, doing like I'm already looking at doing some educational content, like actual like
that's what I wanted.
Scripted stuff.
Yeah. So I want to do a token grant for Uniswap, and so that will be an ad in the podcast, but also too with the intention of building educational videos about blockchain. So we do our own version of blockchain beginnings. We go over smart contracts, we go over wallets, we go over the basics, and we try to develop that as a story and that it's animated. Like we have Curry Hobo, we have other guest artists that do the animation for it, and we tell the story of also the starfish and the spider and stuff like that.
I think that's another cool idea. Like just storytelling.
Yeah.
Because I think you're really good at storytelling. I think that I'm good at explaining concepts.
Yeah.
But I think that you're really good at referencing stories and metaphors and things to, there are people that are left or right brained, right? So like, we really need to be addressing the people that are right brained.
And see what you would bring to the table is that our metaphors are grounded in what the mechanics are. You know what I mean? And that even our animation are accurately depicting and portraying whatever we're discussing, whether via a Uniswap, any of the smart contracts and yada yada. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At that point, the infrastructure for the DAO or the monetization part is where it gets
tricky,
fuzzy, and very like based in trust, and we're trying to get to trustless systems. But if we have,
but that's
a YouTube channel that's monetized to someone's bank account, and like these different things that aren't all the way there yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to really like.
For right now, it has to be it has to be trust peer to peer. Between our kind of digital relationships that we have had already, and that we could use that as a way to use these protocols up to the point to where we no longer are no one needs to, like, the trustless part, that this is all in the background.
That's the goal. We'll just have to inch our way there.
Yeah.
Until we're on Theta and like Audius.
Yeah. But see, and that's where the watering hole of Minds is, because in that sense, Minds being this hybrid and always having like a this feet in both worlds and not of any world type of thing, it made it survive, or made it more nimble in these past 4 years or whatever, I think.
Well, it would be interesting to be able to do like some sort of a group entity or something that's like attached to a multi-sig wallet.
Yeah.
That would be like the groups is like the group itself is able to have a wallet.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to do is like tie in a what is it called? No loss lottery pool. Yeah, a pool. What's it? Pool to? I forgot what it's called, but
pool together or
pull together. Anyways, for each of these, like that being a plugin, a tie-in for your chat rooms, so you could like have a chat room that has, based on whatever you want criteria in that chat room / community, and then you get these tickets for the pool, and it's like NFTs or it's tokens. Like, if we all have a liquidity pool, then you store the rewards in there, and we have different ways we play with that.
That's interesting, because I am currently in the process of I just started rolling out an NFT series that is a lottery.
Oh,
so
shit.
Basically, by the time it's like a staged release, and so they'll keep coming out over a period of time. There are only going to be 10, cool. And once all 10 are purchased, one randomly selected of the 10 gets 50% of the revenue.
Oh, nice.
So that person is actually like is a lottery, and they'll make some money from it. But other than that, they're just cool collectibles. But,
yeah. So,
the way that Pool Together works is because you have to create the interest somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like mine's token isn't really generating too much interest for the no loss lottery.
Yeah.
But you can create cool mechanisms that are.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much yield out there if you know how to get through the obstacles to get to it. Mm-hmm. You know, there are pools that are doing hundreds percent APR all the time if you can just shop for them properly. And I think that's another cool thing that we can do with DAOs is you have competitive yield between, you know, whether it be Curve or Aave or any of these or Yearn is the yield aggregator, or someone is creating these strategies on chain that are going to be the best yield, and everyone can plant their money there, and then it's a decentralized hedge fund.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
once we create it down, start putting some monetizing it, putting some revenue in there, coming up with proposals,
and that's how you make it.
Make sense.
Yeah, that's how you make it sustainable. You know, you do that on the financial back end, but it's all to fund this ecosystem of the creativity that puts resources back into the entity.
I'm all right with Solidity. I'm still polishing up my skills. Definitely not mainnet deployment on anything. But I'm already moving towards Substrate-based blockchains. Substrate is the tech that Polkadot's built with.
Yeah.
Basically, the whole way through as they were building, they abstracted all of the tech and made it basically just Lego.
Yeah.
And so you can go and use all the Legos to build your own chain from scratch.
Yeah.
And then it's connectable with anything.
That's what we gotta do for Imaginarium, huh?